Hey museum friends, it's Nat coming at you with another museum from home tour. So it must be Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday. So during this museum from home tour, we're going to be getting up close with some nature. It's stage nature. We do not have living animals here, except maybe the ones that crawl through the walls. Hopefully not. That would destroy art. So circling back, we're going to be exploring some nature, especially some that you might be seeing in your backyard. Hello, welcome friends. And so I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting a little bored watching Netflix all the time. So I've been staring out my window a little bit more, and I've been working on making a bird feeder and putting it in my backyard. Yeah, I had a bird feeder growing up, and I find that getting up close and kind of, you can read a bird book. You can read a bird book and kind of learn interesting facts about nature, but you really don't get to understand and kind of learn the nuances of nature unless you really start to explore it and observe it in these really unique ways. So I've been starting to do that, and during my my younger years, we had funny story and learning more about nature. When I was young, we had we had this little lantern in front of, a little light next to the door so you could tell and get out your keys and see the doorknob when you were trying to get into the house at night. But there was we regularly had like little tenants that would take up occupancy right on top of the lantern light. And we learned quickly which birds we liked to have as tenants and which ones we didn't in that nesting area. So one year we had a group of, it was either house wrens or house finches that were rather clean. They would take their poop in little poop sacks and deposit them elsewhere, whereas other birds were rather messy and would just kind of make a mess of the lantern and would have to clean it up later. It wasn't as pleasant. So you get to learn these little nuances about animals by actually observing and taking notes and things like that. So yeah, but I'm going to turn the camera back around so we can kind of start to observe these interesting bits of life that we have staged here. So you'll notice that right here we have a cardinal and a blue jay, and also down here we have another cardinal, but also a female cardinal. And you can usually, not all cases, but you can usually tell difference between male and female by the color of the plumage. The male's plumage is usually more vibrant, whereas the female's is usually a little bit more dull. But that's not the case in all birds, but in most. And right now you have this posed kind of scene going on here of a blue jay getting rather uppity with a cardinal, and blue jays are known to be quite bossy. They can be rather boisterous. You can hear them during different times of the season, calling out and saying, "Hey, yep, get out of here." And they can throw their weight around quite a bit. But yeah, and we'll turn the camera down. And so if you do have a bird feeder, you might notice these birds. They won't go up top, but they'll kind of feed on the seeds that are on the ground. And these are mourning doves. And you'll usually see them in pairs or threes. So if they have a juvenile with them, the juvenile will follow along. You'll usually see them in pairs. And they mate for life. So if you do see a lone mourning dove, not pigeon dove. If you do see a lone mourning dove, then usually it means it's lost its partner. But they do take up mates if their partner dies. But that's kind of sad. But moving on, we have two very recognizable birds. You have a rock pigeon over here, and you have your standard city pigeon. Sorry, that's a country accent. You have your city pigeon over here, and typically called rats with wings. But I want to tell you a quick story about a pigeon to maybe give you some newfound respect. for these flying creatures. That there was back in World War I, a pigeon was awarded a Croix de Guerre, I'm going to butcher it because it's French, a Croix de Guerre for honorable service, and it was awarded to a pigeon because it delivered a message through fire, the fog of war, to deliver a message. Its leg was like hanging by tendons, and it managed to deliver a message and save the battalion that it was being carried with. And that pigeon's name, you can look her up, was named Cher Ami, and she won a medal for her service and her bravery. And flying a message that saved a bunch of soldiers. And over here, you'll find a familiar sight, some indoor cats kind of looking longingly out at all these birds that are hanging out here. And I wanna say specifically, like it's important that cats stay indoors. It's known that cats tend to wreak havoc on birds in the local ecology, the local ecosystem, because they have that prey instinct. They'll, I think in the United States alone, cats are responsible for 2.4 billion bird deaths. So it's important to make sure cats stay indoors sometimes. Yeah, so this is our kind of scene, our backyard scene. But I'm going to switch it around here, and we're going to go to another habitat. And these are all habitats that are local to Binghamton, Broome County. So these are all habitats that you can go and visit and observe. And you may notice, here's some familiar sights. You might see a lot of deer, and there's also some unfamiliar creatures that we could have going on here that you may not see as often. So we have opossums, and we have wild turkeys. Yeah, we have a red fox. You may not see red foxes, but you may definitely hear them. I know I heard one at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought somebody was getting murdered outside my house. Their screams, their calls, the fox's calls, are quite startling. They sound just like humans in distress. So, not a great thing to be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning. We also have raccoons. Yeah, pretty cool, eh? Yeah, and and there's been reports that some creatures have been kind of starting to get a little bit bolder because we've all been inside, right? We haven't been driving as much, and we've been inside a little bit more. So there have been cases where nature has been kind of starting to come out a little bit more. Yeah, because humans aren't around, which is kind of interesting. And so I also want to, it's such a beautiful part of the museum. Thank you, yeah. And it's important to see these creatures because, seeing them is us getting to know them better. You always care when you see something, when you know what it looks like. We're able to make better attachments with things. And so I want to talk a little bit about not the animals, but the person who mounted these specimens. So all the specimens that we have in our collection here were made or mounted by, not made, they are from the pelts of real animals that either died in captivity. There were a few cases that they were killed by hunters or they were hit by cars. And so Lee Loomis, or they died of natural causes in a zoo or in a conservation area. And Lee Loomis gave them a second life and gave us a way to enjoy these animals and see them in these natural poses, giving them a second life so we can see them and we can know them a lot better, right? And I'm going to kind of introduce you to Lee Loomis. He's since passed away, but we have a nice collection. I'm going to turn the camera around over here. We have a nice scrapbook. Got my face mask over there. This is him as a younger man with the fox that you might recognize. Yeah, and he was a naturalist. He was a conservationist. He was a hunter. And he was a Binghamton resident. And he mounted more than 10,000 specimens, I want to say. Yeah, those are the raccoons. Look at them. Oh, so cute. And he at one time joked, I think in a newspaper article in the 1930s, that he had taxidermied enough specimens to give to each resident in the Binghamton area. That's not the case, because at the time in the 1930s, I want to say the population was around 70,000. Nowadays, the population in Binghamton is around 40,000. But yeah, here he is, conservationist. Yeah. Cute, very cute. And here's him working in his studio, working on posing one of the birds. Yeah. But I also want to show you some other things that he collected. So he also collected, you can see in the background over here, some hatched eggs. Yeah, wild turkey eggs and things like that. So he was a really great collector of, sorry for the glare, collector of all these different nature artifacts, right? And it's really important that we collect these things, because it tells us a story, not just about nature, and helps us know nature better, but it also helps us know when nature's in trouble. So there's actually a really interesting collection in the Field Museum of, and I can't remember, of these different birds, and you line all the birds up and you can see in their feathered breasts different colorations. The feathers had captured, in some of the birds, you could see when the Industrial Revolution came, and pollution, and kind of like the tapering off of that. So when the air became a little bit cleaner, and you can see that progression in their plumage that captured the ash. And it's having those collections to kind of be able to visualize and see, clean air, pollution, not so clean air, and the air starting to become a little bit cleaner, is a really interesting progression. It allows us to really see when humans are doing damage to the environment, which is really important, and kind of aligns with the next thing I want to talk to you about. It's going to be the 50th anniversary of Earth Day on Wednesday. And here at the Roberson Museum and Science Center, we know that you can't come and visit, but we have a lot of interactive activities on our website. So if you go to roberson.org right now, there are a bunch of little that revolve all around climate action, activities that you can participate in and do at home, all with household items you should be able to find around the house, that you can create things to help get you closer and understand climate and our changing climate a little bit better. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this tour. I think next week we're going to be in the Roberson Mansion again. So we're going to be exploring one room in the Roberson Mansion, the parlor room, and why it's important to women and women's rights. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, if you'd like to support the museum, you can head over to roberson.org, become a member, make a donation. But I'm going to keep trying to bring you these videos as often as I can. And I hope to see you next Tuesday back at the museum. Stay safe, guys. Bye.